Welcome to Platform F. We have Jody and Ms Adelaide Leather 2018 with us today, all the way from Adelaide.
All the way. Hi, Rob.
Jody, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, you're so welcome.
I want to know your life before you got this title.
Yeah, I got to kink really late, kink and fetish. Like I was kind of in my 40s, and I think somebody had a really great saying that I heard once is you don't find kink, it finds you. So I kind of started to be dating a few people that were kind of kinky, and they were kind of like, "Do you want to try this? Do you want to do this?" And I'm like, "Okay." And then it was like, I think I really like what's going on here. So I kind of found it that way through other people and a little bit by chance, I think, which was something that was really surprising to me. That it was just suddenly this spurt of people who were kinky that I ended up kind of dating and meeting, and I'm like, "There's something going on here that maybe I need to think about." What that means for me. So yeah,
And then you ran for a
I
competition and
did.
title.
I did. In fact, it was one of those things. I'd kind of, I'd actually been doing a tiny little bit of things around the Melbourne community, the Kink community here, and there wasn't a lot that I could find in Adelaide. It's really kind of underground in Adelaide. It's hard if you don't know where to look. And so I kind of, from one of the first times, went to an event that someone was running, that Leather and Fetish were running, and just suddenly went, "Oh, okay, there are people here that do these things that I'm really interested in." So just started hanging out with that community, and in 2018 they were like, "We're gonna do a title that's a non-male title," and everyone was kind of like, "You should go do it. You should go do it." And so yeah, just kind of had chats with people that had been around the scene and thought, why not? For me, it's not just about what it looks like around what we wear, but it's about how we come together as a community and how we support each other. And for me, it's always about kind of that visibility of you can't be what you can't see.
Yeah.
And kind of that was part of my whole platform was let's raise some of the conversations about kind of non-binary trans people within this community because we weren't, even in 2018, we kind of weren't really having them. They weren't happening. So that was really what I went in with is let's kind of see who we can attract to this community and bring to this community with different experiences.
When you started your King journey, and then maybe before you became a title holder, what did you exactly do to find these people and have these conversations?
Well, you know what I did? I created an event. So somebody who was already kind of part of the community said, let's get together, let's do a queer women, trans and non-binary month. So really attracting kind of outside of that gay man space that we know Leather has a lot of people in it. And so we started a munch. And I think that was trying to attract those people to something that they could feel safer at.
Yeah.
And often it was a bit of a soft launch and the really soft launch for them into the kink community.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most surprising things still for me is that the biggest kind of cohort of people attracted to coming, usually for the first time to a kink thing, is trans femme women because there's not a lot of safe spaces out in the broader kink community for trans femme women. So to kind of still have people coming, and some people have been coming for the 8 years that it's been running. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's always still surprises me that that's kind of the cohort. I figured we'd get a whole bunch of different people, but I think it's once people find a spot where their people are, it kind of gives you a bit of bravery to go into other spaces and feel like I kind of got accepted here. I feel like it might build up my capacity and resilience to then head into another space and give it a go there.
Yeah, it's always hard when you try something for the first time.
Oh, I was shit scared the first time I walked into like a kink event, and I was like, "What am I going to see? What's going to happen?" And then it was like, these are just normal people doing slightly different things, but I think it's the same as building a conversation and a network in any community. It's like, where do our values align? What are the things that we can talk about that are important? And I know that when people come to my munch, I don't know if that first time they expect kinky conversations. We barely talk kink. We talk life. We talk, how people's lives are going. With a lot of kind of people who are in different points of transition, they'll all share their stories about hormones and transitioning. And here's what I'm doing with my here's the best psychiatrist to go to get this, or like we talk about everything really
Yeah.
except kink. Well, unless I start a conversation about fisting, which is fairly usual. Like that would probably.
We're
But
both flagging today.
yeah, I know. Yeah, always flagging. I think if people could say what's the one thing about me in this community, it's like I've always got something around me. Always. But there's that stuff like we talk about absolutely everything, and I think it's that openness that means that people build a confidence that they can feel they can ask. Like
Yeah.
I'm an open book, and everyone who knows me knows that. And so I think it gives people confidence to say, I can ask here about the stuff that has been worrying me or concerning me or I'm scared about, and they'll get a genuine answer.
Yeah.
And we often have in that group as well a lot of people who've been in the kink community for a fair amount of time. So the new people often get to meet more established people pretty quickly and can ask questions about what's in the rest of the community that I can go to, where might be something where that I can do this, what's the rope school that you'd recommend. So we get to build people's confidence to be able to navigate the community better, I think.
I was reflecting on this with a few other friends the other day. How do we connect with people and have these conversations? I'm coming from Sri Lanka, South Asian country, so accepting myself and being queer is one major step that I had to do, pass in my life. But then there's another hurdle when it comes to kinks or fetishes or anything, because that's not a conversation that I can have with everyone else or most of the people. It's not an easy conversation to have until you meet people who are willing to have those conversations with you, and having these spaces to have these conversations and connect with each other. I think that changes everyone's lives, and it's really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, in my day job, I do a lot of work around kind of community connection. I work in a space like in the DV space, so I work a lot with trauma, and I know it's that stuff about we all heal through connection. Like that's so important to be able to say, this is the kind of space that I want people to be able to feel like they can ask and feel themselves in. Because we know that if people are safer, we know their nervous systems are safer, they're going to take things in better. So, I think one of the things I think I'm really, it's a funny one, but I'm really strong about affinity spaces. And, I feel like we need to kind of find places and ways to create those because it means if people establish a little bit of safety for themselves first, then they can go out into the community, and they can come back to, even if they're like, oh, this month I didn't get to any of the other munches because I didn't feel good, but I'm back here for this one, and I'll build that resilience to try and go out there and do it again.
Yeah, you have to do it on your own pace, right? Just because there's like so many things happening, you don't have to go to all these things. You just find your own pace and own way of doing that. I felt overwhelmed sometimes, when I first moved to Melbourne. There are too many things to do, and if I miss out something, am I gonna miss out everything?
Miss out on everything. Yeah.
So I had to like take a step back and say, no, you do what you can do, and then slowly build up your people and connections.
I'm a big fan of take it slow. I mean, I've probably been in the kink scene about 10 or 11 years now, I think, all up, somewhere around that. And I watch people hit it really hard, and I watch them flame into everything, then I watch them burn out. And I'm like, if take it slow and take it in and like enjoy that. I think people forget that. They're kind of like, I want to do all these things, and they forget to just kind of stop and take it in and enjoy it. And then you can, build that longevity in the community. I think that's the tricky part. If you go too hard, too fast, you see people just drop out and never come back into the community.
Yeah, I just can't stop thinking, take it slow and take it in. Sorry, you're flagging red as well. So I can't stop thinking.
Absolutely.
It can go with anything.
Yes.
I was just in my head. I was like, that's what you have to learn.
Even too much lube is never enough.
So but things you learn there, you can apply to life as well, right? Everything. Take it slow. Find your own journey. Find your own rhythm.
Yeah, and I always say to people as well, like I've got a real philosophy around you go at the pace of the slowest person. Like if that's a dynamic that you're building, it's a relationship that you're building, it's dating that you're building, whatever you're building, go at the pace of the slowest person, because if you push people, you usually just end up pushing them away rather than bringing them closer. And
Yeah.
if your intent is to bring close, then just slow it down.
Yeah. Jody, how was it growing up in Adelaide and you identify as non-binary? How was that journey?
I think Adelaide's a really conservative, more conservative space than Melbourne. Like I think one of those jokes, if you go to Adelaide, it might be an hour away, but it's actually you go back to 1956 is kind of the joke about heading into Adelaide. I think I think again, there's not a very visible queer community in Adelaide. That right now we've kind of got two queer spots, like that's it for all of Adelaide. We used to have a lot more, but they don't last. But I think as well, I also got to the non-binary part of my journey quite late. Like again, I was kind of in my 40s and feeling like that language had started to evolve. Like when I was growing up, we didn't have the language around non-binary, and I think it was kind of it's a it was great. It was great to have it to be like this is a word that finally I feel describes how I feel about myself. Like I don't I don't necessarily I definitely don't feel very feminine. I don't feel at that end of the spectrum, that's for sure. I kind of, I do resonate down towards the masculine end of the spectrum, but I don't necessarily want to do that journey of being a binary man. That's not something at this point I want to do. So I feel like talking about having a non-binary identity gives me a way to kind of honor that masculine part, which is often left out in terms of if you identify as female. Like there's some space around butch, and I'm a really heavy butch advocate. Like I talk a lot about being butch and what that means around masculinity, but there's not a lot of space around identifying as a woman and having kind of the connection between masculinity. So I feel like for me, non-binary does that, where I feel like I can really lean heavily on the masculinity. I don't need to do much in that end of the feminine end of the spectrum. Um, but I feel like it just kind of combines the ways that I feel about myself. It's a language that I can understand and that other people can understand. And I think it's not always easy. Like it's a bit of it's a social transition. So social transition from being she her to being they them, and even now there's a lot of people who aren't great with it. And I do a lot of education in my work, and I was actually training our police around how to better ask into DV in queer relationships. And got to the end of the session doing all the bits, and someone's like, I'm really confused because isn't they like plural? And it's like, did you miss all the bits that we talked about today, that everything is on a spectrum, and people can it's about really acknowledging where people identify, and you take that on. So I think it's interesting. As far as I understand, I think I was probably the first out title holder in terms of being non-binary. I know that someone in Sydney, after their title, had that journey through. Like I know that, but it was really interesting just trying to find spaces and people to connect with about it, because I think it is different. I think being kind of genderqueer is a different journey to other people. Like I'm trying to think, there was very few genderqueer, non-binary people in the leather community back in 2018. So again, it's part of that thing about I want this to be an important part of my identity, so that people see that they can have a place. And also sometimes once you're in it, then you realize there's all these supports, and you end up connecting up with some of the transmasc spaces that are out there across other countries as well. So yeah, sometimes when you're on the inside of it is when you find that connection and find other people. Like, yeah, there's people around the world that I know now that being able to travel is a privilege that I've done, but also it means I can meet people and feel that connection and feel like that I have people around the world who have a similar understanding about my journey that we can share. But I think you can't do it unless you talk about it. I think that's the thing, is just make, like I always, on my title vest, I have they, them really clearly, so that people know that they're going to come up to have a different experience when they talk to me about that.
Yeah.
Which is great, because there's a few more non-binary people and title holders now who are like, oh my God, yay. But I think it's just trying to get everybody in the community to have that conversation is is a tricky thing because not everybody's ready.
Do you think that since 2018 things have changed a lot in a positive way, or is it easier for someone who's now exploring
Yeah.
this space as an non-binary person?
Mm. God, that is such a great question, BB. I think it's a little better,
Hmm.
but I think that lots of the barriers are still there and haven't disappeared.
Hmm.
You know, like I think it is better and people can often find affinity spaces. I know that we're kind of, you know, all a lot of us are trying to create those spaces like my munch, for instance, that
Hmm.
lets people come who kind of have that difference. But I, I feel like maybe there's not, yeah, this is, I love this question. I feel like maybe there's not as many barriers, but the barriers haven't changed. In that, when I go into a room somewhere, I probably, if it's a leather room, I'm fairly likely to see mostly gay white men
Hmm.
in there. That will be predominantly in that room. Um, and I think as well that kind of trying to talk to people about what it means to have a non-binary transmasc
Hmm.
experience, and that, you know, essentially um, the way that kind of our dominant culture in leather, which is gay white men,
Hmm.
see me as still as a woman rather than being actually no, I'm way down here on this end of
Hmm.
masculinity closer to you. And I feel like I haven't felt like that barrier's changed a lot. I feel like that one particularly is still there. Um, but I think that there's certainly pockets of spaces where they're like, actually, I do recognize your experience as being in a masculine space. So come into this masculine
Yeah.
space, which has changed because I think there was a lot more resistance, but it's slow. Things are slow. I mean,
We have other challenges happening around the world as well, right? So they are all
yeah,
impacting
yeah.
all these.
I mean, if you're anyone who has a heart, then you're part of a global community, right? And
Yeah.
I feel so desperate for a lot of people around, you know, the world right now, and
Mm.
what that means around trans and non-binary people and their exclusion in public life, and legislating
Yeah.
against people. Like,
Yeah.
are we back in?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And look, that's a really big long conversation
Yeah.
with a bottle of red wine, that one,
Yeah.
baby, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
About
Yeah.
how we are moving backwards in terms of
Yeah.
social expansion. But I guess it is still, I kind of just want to find places where people can be themselves and
Yeah.
feel safer.
Yeah.
um so, you know, I'll do what I can to make that happen.
We all can do what we can do in all these challenging times rather than focusing on all the barriers, but trying to focus on what we can do. So we create spaces for each other to have
Yeah,
conversations and make everyone feel comfortable. And
yeah,
I think
yeah,
at the
yeah,
end of the day, we are all people. Like, we
yeah,
are all like
yeah,
human beings. Whatever you identify, you should be able to feel safe and feel you belong to a space and
yeah.
belong to a community.
You know, I always think about, we change minds like one conversation at a time,
Yeah.
but also if we're not in the spaces to have the conversation about what that difference means, then people don't experience that and won't create change. That if you have an identity that matches in with the event, and an identity that's based around leather, like, that's important to me. I have an identity that's based around leather, around how that community works and what we do and how we are with each other. Then I kind of feel like those are the spaces that I have an ability and a right to be in,
Yeah.
you know. And I'm not screaming out for everybody to let into that space, but saying, you know, this is part of that barrier of, I'd love for you to see me in my masculine identity. That means that I get to be part of this community rather than being excluded and on the outside of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 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 It
And then
makes
often I
sense.
can have conversations within that, like, you know,
Yeah.
and somebody's like, "Oh, you're here, yeah, I'm here because, yeah, well, that's how we see you, so we're glad that you're here and welcome." And like, nobody's life ended when I came into that event, but I wonder as well whether that was part of my visibility over many years of, you know, being more masculine rather than, you know, and some, we can't help the meat sack we're in. Well, we can, but we can do whatever if we want to transition that way. But I want to socially transition, but be seen for who I am. And I
Yeah.
think that's the hardest part of that conversation. People don't get the nuance of that. Is like, I haven't changed anything about my body surgically, but here's where my brain is and here's where my identity is, which is over here and masculine. So I think that's part of what I mean by barriers. It's a tricky spot for people to get the concept of. Your outward expression doesn't have to change in order for you to have a different identity. And I think that's the hard part of the conversation that people get worried about.
Yeah. You are very active in the community, you travel a lot, and with all that, you build a community around you.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this community? And if I want to ask three things which comes to your mind,
Yeah.
which you think of all these people around you, what comes to your mind?
Yep. Like I said earlier, it is a privilege to travel, and I've been able to see communities around the world. And I guess every community that I get welcome into, I feel loved and cared for. I think the heart in our leather flag is there for a reason. Like it really is, and I feel that no matter which part of the world I'm in, you get seen as part of that family. Like that's really important. I think three words that really stick out to me about the way that all happens across the globe is love. I think there's a lot of love in our leather communities and in our fetish communities. I think that's something that's really important. For me, it's always about values. Like what are our values that sits underneath this? And I've over the years worked out that some people don't match my values, and they're not the people that I'm going to hang out with, and they're not the people that I'm going to put on an event for. I'm just not. So I think values is really important, and being able to kind of articulate that and articulate what that means to each other's connection. Like there's some connections I have with people that on paper we should not work because we're like really opposite ends of the spectrum around our lives, but we come together with our kind of leather values and our fetish values, which I think is really important. And you know what? I think the other word that people would always resonate with me about is safety. So I'm really clear about wanting to create safer spaces, and we can never guarantee that they're going to be safe, but we can say safer. And so, one of my commitments to that is running consent workshops, which I've been doing for 5 or 6 years now. So, I think part of building safety is feeling safe to have conversations and connections, and I think that's really important. So, I think love, values, and safety would be the three things I think are really important, and that I look for in a community. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Phoebe, thank you for having me. I will have these conversations all day, every day about what it means to us to kind of function as outsiders, because we're outsiders when we're part of the leather and fetish community, but also what it means to bring all of that and be felt as an insider in that community as well. So thank you for doing this.
I think I am trying to talk to everyone that I can, so I can understand, everyone's experiences, and we all come from different backgrounds, and we have all these intersectional experiences. I think we need to have conversations around it. And I feel like an outsider at one point, and I still feel like, as an immigrant and as a person of color, I feel like an outsider in this country or wherever I am as well. Funny enough, I feel like an outsider in Sri Lanka when I'm there as well. So I think connecting, like you said earlier, connecting with people and having conversations has been the key for me to feel that I belong somewhere. And this is, when you have a conversation, it brings us more closer as well. You don't have to agree to everything with everyone, but at least you can have a conversation and then maybe agree to disagree or agree. But at least it brings you closer to someone else, and that's how I feel like I build my community. And thank you for doing that, and I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yay, thank you, Vivi.
Amazing.